If I Were in the Zoo by Dr. Seuss. It's a pretty good zoo, said young Gerald McGrew, and the fellow who runs it seems proud of it too. But if I ran the zoo, said young Gerald McGrew, I'd make a few changes. That's just what I'd do. The lions and tigers and that kind of stuff, they have up here now are just quite not enough. You see, things like these are in just any old zoo. They're awfully old-fashioned. I want something new. So I'd open up each cage, I'd unlock every pen, I'd let the animals go and start over again. And somehow or another, I think I could find some beast of a much more unusual kind. A four-footed lion's not much of a beast. The one in my zoo will have 10 feet at least, 5 legs on the left and 5 more on the right, and then people will stare and they'll say, "What a sight! The zookeeper knew Keeper Gerald's quite keen. That'll hold god darnest lion I'd ever seen." My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people talk. My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people gawk at the strangest odd creatures that ever did walk. I'll get for my zoo a new sort of hen, who roosts in another hen's top knot, and then another one roosts in the top knot of his, and another in his, and another in his, and so forth and upward and onward. Gee whiz. But that's just a start. I'd better do better than that. They'll see me the next day in my zookeeper's hat, coming to the zoo with an elephant cap. They'll be so surprised they'll all swallow their gum. They'll ask when they see my strange animals come, where do you suppose he gets things like that from? His animals all have such very odd faces. I bet he must hunt them in all sorts of places. And that's just what I'll do, said young Gerald McGrew. If you want to catch beasts you don't see every day, you have to go places quite out of the way. You have to go to places that no others can get to. You have to get cold and you have to get wet too. Up past the North Pole where the frozen winds squeal, I'll go and I'll hunt in my Skeaglemobile, and I'll bring back a family of what do you know? And that's how my new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will grow. I'll hunt in the mountains of Zomba-Matant, with helpers who all wear their eyes at a slant, and capture a fine fluffy bird called the bustard, who only eats custard with sauce made of mustard. And also a very fine beast called the flustered, who only eats mustard with sauce made of custard. I'll catch 'em in caves, and I'll catch 'em in brooks, I'll catch 'em in crannies, and I'll catch 'em in nooks that you don't even read about in geography books. I'll catch 'em in countries that no one can spell, like the country Matafapatafafel. In a country like that, if a hunter is clever, he'll hunt up some beasts that you never saw ever. I'll load up 5 boats with a family of jotes whose feet are like cows but wear squirrel skin coats, and they sit down like dogs and have voices like goats, except in that they can't really sing high notes. And then I'll go down to the wilds of Nantucket and capture a family of lunks in a bucket. Then people will say, now I like that boy heaps. His new zoo, McGrew Zoo, is growing by leaps. He captures them wild and he captures them meek. He captures them slim and he captures them sleek. What do you suppose he will capture next week? I'll capture one tiny. I'll capture one cute. I'll capture a deer that no hunter would shoot. A deer that's so nice he could sleep in your bed if it weren't for those horns that we had on his head. And speaking of horns that are just a bit queer, I'll bring back a very odd family of deer. A father, a mother, 2 sisters, and a brother, whose horns are connected from one to the other, whose horns are so mixed they can't tell them apart, and they can't tell where they end, they can't tell where they start. Each deer's mighty puzzled. He's never yet found if his horns are hers or the other way round. I'll capture them fat and I'll capture them scrawny. I'll capture a scragglefoot mulligatawny, a high-stepping animal fast as the wind, from the blistering sands of the desert of Zend. This beast is the beast that the brave chieftains ride when they want to go fast and find somewhere to hide. A mulligatawny is fine for my zoo, and so is the chieftain. I'll bring one back too. In the far western part of southeast North Dakota lives a very fine animal called the iota. I'll capture one who is even much finer in the northwestern west part of South Carolina. When people see him, they'll say, now by thunder, this new zoo, McGrew Zoo, really is a wonder. Most beasts are quite friendly, but still, in some lands, some beasts are too dangerous to catch with bare hands. For those that are ugly and vicious and mean, I'll build a bad animal catching machine. It's rather expensive to build such a kit, but with a hunter it can never get bit. A zoo should have bugs, so I'll capture a thwirl. Those legs are snarled up in a terrible snarl. And then I'll go out and I'll capture some chugs, some keen shooter, mean shooter, bean shooter bugs. I'll go to the African island of Yurka and bring back a tizzle-top tufted mazurka, a kind of canary with a tall throat, His neck is so long if he swallows an oat for breakfast the first day of April, they say, it has to go down such a very long way that it gets to his stomach on the 15th of May. I'll bag a big bug who's very surprising. A feller who has a propeller for rising and zooming around making cross-country hops from Texas to Boston with only 2 stops. Now that sort of thing for a bug is just tops. And when I've caught him, then the next thing you know, I'll go and capture a wild tic-tac-toe. With X's that win and zeros that lose, he'll look mighty good in the zoo of McGrew's. I'll bring back a gusset, a gherkin, and a gasket, and also a gooch from the wilds of Nantasket. 8 Persian princes will carry the basket. What their names are, I don't know, so just don't ask it. In a cave in Khartoum lives a beast called the Natch that no other hunter has been able to catch. He's hidden for years in his cave with a pout, and no one's been able to make him come out. But I'll coax him out with a wonderful meal that's cooked by the cooks in my cookermobile. They'll fix up a dish that is just to his taste. 3 chicken croquettes made of library paste, then sprinkled with peanut shucks, pickled and spiced, and baked at 600 degrees and then iced. It's mighty hard cooking to cook up such feasts, but that's how the new zoo, the McGrew Zoo, gets beasts. I'll go to the faraway mountains of Tobolsk, near the river of Nabosk, and I'll bring them back in Obsk. So, a sort of thing that's like a thingamabosk. He only eats rhubarb and corn on the cobs. And then people will flock to my zoo in a mobsk. McGrew, they will say, does a wonderful job. He hunts with such vim and he hunts with such vigor. His new zoo, McGrew Zoo, just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And speaking of birds, there is the Russian Paluski, whose head ski is red ski and belly is blue ski. I'll get one of them for my Zooski McGrewski. And then the whole town will gasp, why, this boy never sleeps! No keeper before ever kept what he keeps. There's no telling what that young fellow will do. And then just to show them, I'll sail to Katru and bring back an Itkach, a Preep, a Nurgle, a Proop, a Nert, and a Seersucker too. I'll hunt in the jungles of Hipponahungus. I'll bring back a flock of wild Bibbonobungus. The Bibbonobungus from Hipponahungus are better than those down in Dippododungus, and smarter than those out in Dippododungus. That's why I'll catch them in Hipponahungus, instead of those others in Nungus and Dungus. And people will say when they see these bips bounding, the new zookeeper's simply astounding. He travels so far you'd think he would drop. When do you suppose this young fellow will stop? Stop? Well, I should. But I won't stop until I've captured the Feezamaweezamadill, the only world's biggest bird from the island of Gwark, who only eats pine trees and spits out the bark. And boy, when I get him back to my park, the whole world will say young McGrew's made his mark. He's built a better zoo than Noah's whole ark. These wonderful, marvelous beasts that he chooses have made him the greatest of all the McGrewses. Wow, they'll all cheer. What zoo must be worth? It's the galldarnedest zoo on the face of the earth. Yes, that's what I'll do, said young Gerald McGrew. I'd make a few changes if I ran the zoo.